Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Family Sedan channel, and here's a headline from you today. Ripple will definitely lose against SEC, crypto executive says. Now, this particular executive I highlighted on my channel it's the beginning part of this year, and he literally believes not just that Ripple will quote unquote definitely lose against the SEC, he also has stated in the past, I'll show you in a second here, that XRP is a security, which those are two different claims. He almost seems gleeful. He seems so confident in this. And part of the reason I wanted to highlight this because look, you know me, I'm Mr. Positive when it comes to long-term viability of XRP. But I'm grounded in reality about it. It's not just sniffing a bunch of hopium or how do they do it? Snort it? How do people take the hopium? I don't know. I'm not doing it though. I live in reality. I'm grounded in reality. But it's okay to be excited. And I also think that if you're grounded in reality, you should be willing and able and happy to address the naysayers out there. And this crypto executive is definitely one of the naysayers. He's running his own crypto project with his own cryptocurrency, mind you. And this guy, he is frankly so ignorant on securities laws that I kind of feel sorry for him in a way. Look, and check this out. I'll show you the specifics, but know this at the outset. He's intentionally engaging with the SEC voluntarily. And if you're already kind of rolling your eyes or chuckling right now, then it's because you know why. The people that do that, those are the people the SEC is most likely to sue. So when I found out that he was doing that, and he's so confident he's got this good relationship with the SEC, I'm like, oh man, you're next. Well, history shows us we should expect him to be next anyway, right? But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a legal or financial background of any kind. I'm not offering legal or financial advice. And you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. And who am I talking about? None other than Gene Hoffman, the CEO of Chia. And so the Chia coin is, the little ticker symbol is XCH. Here's on Live Coin Watch and the price chart showing all of its activity since, I guess, its inception. I don't pretend to know anything about the coin, so I'm not for or against it. I do not want him to be attacked by the SEC, so don't think that I'm taking glee in that. I'm just like, man, it would be better if he would just inform himself so he understands the degree to which he's not only risking everything that he's doing in his livelihood, but also the degree to which the entire world of crypto is under assault. But here you can see this coin was once worth $1,714 in like much of crypto after the 2021 euphoria. It's way down. It's worth $38.84. Again, down from about $1,700. So that's the coin. Again, I'm not going to say anything good or bad about it. I haven't researched it. I frankly don't care right now. I care about the assertions that he's making about Ripple and the assertions he's making about XRP. And so here's a tweet from January 1st where he wrote Bitcoin, Litecoin, Doge, XCH, so that's his coin. He says, not securities. ETH, XRP, FTT, Solana, AVAX, Cardano always have been. So there you go, right there. It's on your screen. Back then, beginning of this year, XRP itself is a security. Well, has his perspective changed on anything, though? Because we just found out just a couple days ago that Gary Gensler's perspective is that every cryptocurrency that isn't Bitcoin is a security. Every single one of them. That is the perspective he has shared. And so there's somebody named Aaron who tagged Gene Hoffman, the CEO of Chia, and he wrote, "Hi, Gene. What do you think about it? I think Chia is better than Bitcoin." And so Gene Hoffman, who thinks that XRP is a security, did respond and said, XCH is not a security. We're going in to register Chia equity, which is the obvious way to be legal that everyone else just doesn't want to do. So I'll just pause to note that's a rather interesting approach. He's not going to try to register his Chia coin, the XCH coin. He's going in to register Chia equity. And he says that that's obvious. So he says if you register equity in a company and then separately you have a coin, in his fantasy land mind, now you're just not going to be attacked by the SEC. Well, this is where former Ripple employee Matt Hamilton jumps in. And former Ripple employee Matt Hamilton responded with the following: "You would think so, but it didn't stop the SEC going after Ripple. And no, it certainly did not. As you are probably well aware to this point, you actually, if you're what's the word I'm looking for? The obvious word. Sophisticated investor, but they call it the qualification to be. I hate it when I have like, you ever have this happen? We all do. Where like you're thinking of something, it's like on the edge of your brain, you can't think of like a very basic word. It's like if you forget the word like fork or spoon. It's that stupid. It's like a couple cylinders not firing here right now. But it's not certified investor. I know some of you are screaming. It's this word. I know. I feel it. I wish it was in my brain right now. But but it's what you have to do to be considered to be a sophisticated investor, and you have to have at least a net worth of $1 million, not including your primary residence, or you have to have made $250,000, I believe the figure is, for the previous 2 years, to show that you're a sophisticated investor. And then you can go ahead and purchase shares of Ripple if you so choose on secondary markets. So that's what's being discussed there. That's obviously completely separate from purchasing XRP. And so again, Matt Hamilton said you would think so, but it didn't stop the SEC going after Ripple, which I think is not surprising, because they just want to attack crypto regardless of whether or not Ripple was even offering any sort of stock, because Ripple doesn't have to offer stock. But they do, to people that are qualified, and it doesn't stop the SEC at all. I don't think it would matter to them. But Gene Hoffman jumps in and says they sold XRP before they registered Ripple stock, and that was the mistake. And so that obviously doesn't make sense, as Matt Hamilton points out. He says, "How could you register stock in a company that didn't exist at the time?" Good question. But again, Gene Hoffman, he seems to just have opinions about stuff that he hasn't sufficiently researched. But that's why I have a concern. Like, he's a CEO of this firm, and he seems to be taking a rather haphazard, lackadaisical approach to, clear. If you look at his understanding, and it gets worse as I'll go further through the video, it really does get worse. I don't think things are going to go well for him in all likelihood. And then, so then Matt Hamilton wrote to Gene and said, or Gene said, yeah, so it doesn't matter if you don't. Yeah, this is where it gets extra interesting. So Gene Hoffman wrote to Matt Hamilton, says, doesn't matter. If you don't sell the token, it can't be a security. Now, I will acknowledge, my understanding previously, especially before all the SEC v Ripple stuff, my understanding was that, and even during much of the last 2 years, is that if Ripple had not sold XRP, that the SEC wouldn't have anything to go on. Obviously, if they're not selling, how could you, go against for sale of an unregistered security if they didn't sell anything? And what I didn't know at the time, and I still think this is ridiculous that this is the case, but what I didn't realize at the time, that you can be guilty of securities infractions even if you don't sell anything. Because the SEC can argue that what you have done, your behavior, constitutes an offer, and even just putting forth an offer is actually illegal. And I didn't know that for most of the last couple of years that I've been covering this. It just wasn't made clear to me. I didn't see it covered. But then I highlight, once I found that out, I've mentioned on the channel before. So again, no, I don't pretend to know everything. I'm learning along the way, just like everybody else. But he doesn't seem to know that. Even if you don't sell, you can still actually be in trouble. And so Matt Hamilton responded, though, and he said, the Chia company doesn't own any XCH, question mark? And Gene Hoffman wrote back and said, it does own XCH. It has never sold XCH, and all the trading XCH was from farmers farming. And then Matt Hamilton responded, but it has given XCH away, no? For example, employee compensation. So this is Matt Hamilton asking if they've given it away in any sort of capacity whatsoever. Although, again, we now know that even if it's not sold, even if there's what the SEC would argue is an offer, you can still be in legal hot water with the SEC. And then Gene Hoffman responded, no, all the XCH the company has sits on chain doing absolutely nothing until after we have a registration statement effective for our equity. Being a normal Delaware company with HQ in the Bay Area isn't a pretty time-tested process. So let's pause a note here. For some reason, he has it in his head that registering equity with the company will protect him from not having the SEC going after him for this Chia coin, the XCH coin. But if you look at all the arguments that the SEC has thrown forth at Ripple, it becomes very clear that that's not really what they're talking about. Look at all the BS arguments about the asset itself being a security and all the other stuff that I've been covering for over 2 years. Look at the assertions made in the SECV library case. So he thinks this is going to protect him. He's living in a fantasy land. And it's not that I want the SEC to go after this guy. I just think he doesn't have a freaking clue what he's talking about. And somebody better help him from his legal team. I hope he has a legal team, because this is not solid stuff here. This is not good. This is not safe for him. I assume at some point, it will not be surprising anyway if we see a headline where Gene Hoffman of Chia gets sued for XYZ reason by the SEC. I will not be the least bit surprised to see that. He should be pushing back against all of this, but what he's doing, you'll see as I go a little bit further in this video, he's trying to align himself with the SEC, looking for a good favor, right? Okay, who else has done that? Well, Ripple did that. And of course, the difference being Ripple wasn't pushing back against other coins or saying other coins are necessarily securities or stuff like that. But Ripple took this approach. Hey, we're trying to do everything by the book. We're Ripple. A library did that. Dragon Chain did that. The people, these entities, that made them targets. How the hell has this guy, this Chia Gene Hoffman guy, not drawn upon past experience of others to learn that this is a very bad idea? And then Matt Hamilton responds and says, fair enough. You might want to keep a close eye on the Ripple case. No doubt you are, as the SEC are trying to argue an investment contract is not needed and secondary market sales also secures. And Matt Hamilton's absolutely correct there. They are arguing that every single transaction, it's what's become known as the embodiment theory, that XRP embodies all of the efforts that Ripple's promising allegedly to individuals, and that's the reason that they're arguing people are investing, so on and so forth. And as far as an investment contract, that's another thing. The SEC is arguing that no actual contract is required. Now, that goes against over 70 years of case law and precedent, so that's a nonsense novel theory that they're trying to push forward. It's just garbage theory. But Matt Hamilton's absolutely correct here. And Gene Hoffman either doesn't know this or it's just the willing suspension of disbelief, effectively. But Gene Hoffman responds and says, the Howey test requires a sale. Stop. I got to stop there. The SEC doesn't care. They're going to come after you even if you sell none. They'll say that you're offering. But anyway, Gene Hoffman says, the Howey test requires a sale. XCH has never been sold by Chia Network Inc. We've also not done anything cute that could look like a sale or a gift or ... And then Matt Hamilton wrote, like I said, hopefully the Ripple case settles favorably for you. Gene Hoffman says, the facts are very different and our method was designed to not make their mistake. They will lose, of course. And let's pause a note, he wrote loose when he means lose. He wrote Loose. Well, look, I don't know if Ripple's going to lose, but in terms of the idea of XRP being a security, it's hard to fathom that it would, secondary market transactions wouldn't be protected somehow. But Gene Hoffman seems to think that all of it should be illegal and just cease to exist effectively. Matt Hamilton responded and said, like I said, for your sake, you better hope they don't lose, as the SEC are trying to argue no investment contract necessary and secondary market sales can be securities. So pause to think about this. This Gene Hoffman guy is talking about, well, we're going to register, buy shares of our company, equity in the company. And then for some reason he has in his mind that that'll make it clear that that's separate from the XCH token. Okay, fine. That's what he thinks. I don't believe that's going to protect him for a second here. But even if so, they're already arguing that secondary market sales can be securities. They're doing it in the Ripple case. How is he this oblivious? And then Gene responds and he says, no, the SEC is saying that when Ripple sold XRP without a registration statement, that was either an investment contract or a security scheme, both clearly covered by the 33 and 34 Act. I wouldn't be surprised if they prevail that after that sin, secondary sales remain security. So there you go. He's siding with the SEC on this, in fact. He's saying that since Ripple made a violation, that all sales henceforth forever, all secondary market transactions must remain illegal securities transactions forever for all time. That's the embodiment theory, or at least a part of it. It really is. Like, that's what he's arguing. He's arguing the BS nonsense novel theory. And he thinks that this is going to curry favor with the SEC for him. I beg to differ. I do not think that's how this works. That's not what history has shown us makes sense for companies that want to continue to exist in the world of crypto and blockchain. It's just completely ridiculous. Oh, my gosh. And then Matt Hamilton wrote, but how can you tell if secondary sales involve Ripple? XRP is fungible. Gene Hoffman says, selling a token without a registration statement around may convert a token into a security. So don't sell them before there is a registration statement. So he's of the incorrect mindset that it's the asset itself that is the security or is not the security. The asset is never the security. He doesn't even know that. But he sure has a lot of opinions that he's sharing publicly here. This would make me, frankly, alarmed to invest in his Chia thing because he's making himself a target. I don't even know if the project's good or bad. I don't know anything about it. And for the purpose of this video, I don't care. And I wish him the best. I don't know what's going to happen again. Don't know anything about the project. I don't know anything of it. But there we are. And so the icing on the cake, and I kind of teased this a little bit at the outset of the video, but it's the fact that he's working with the SEC. And so this guy named Aaron that started this whole thread wrote to Gene Hoffman and said, may I ask whether Chia has discussed with the SEC on the issue that XCH is not a security? If yes, have you ever received an affirmative reply from the SEC that XCH is not a security? To which Gene responded, and this is hilarious, but I kind of feel bad for him because he just seems like so gullible and uninformed. But he wrote, all I can say right now is that we have proactively engaged with the SEC and remain confident in our plan. Folks, proactively engaging with the SEC makes you a target. You're doing all of the hard work for them. You're saying, here's what we're doing. If you're actually being transparent, as you need to be if you're doing what Gene says he's doing here, then you're like, here's our game plan. Here's everything we're doing. Here's why we think that we're not a security. Here's why we know we're not a security. You'd be so bold as to say that even. And the SEC will just go along, nod their heads, okay. And then after you've given them everything, they're like, wow, we really just had a case handed to us. It's lead generation. That's what Brad Garlinghouse called it. It's lead generation. Come in and talk to us. That's lead generation. And then they turn around and sue you. So, again, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if they come next. And you already know they're not going to get a stamp of approval from the SEC. This guy's living in a fantasy land here. That's not going to happen. Garrigan's already said everything that's not Bitcoin is a security. That doesn't include you? Are you serious? That's the guy running the SEC. What do you think's going to happen in terms of enforcement action? What do you think? Coming from the guy at the top. Holy gullibility, Batman. My God. And again, I don't wish bad on the guy. I think he's wrong and he just has a bad opinion here. I don't want another crypto project to be attacked, but I don't respect the approach he's taken in siding with the SEC. I don't. So I still want his project to succeed because I prefer to see success. I want crypto to do well in general, but I certainly don't respect the fact that he's siding with the SEC in any capacity as it pertains to crypto regulation. And he seems to just not care or not know that it's outside of what your case precedent. Just go back over 70 years and what case law is. It's stupid. STOOPID, stupid. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the Moon Family Sedan.